Hello everybody, good morning and welcome to the United Stand. It's a match day and this is your latest Manchester United news as we talk about the Glazers potentially postponing the sale of Manchester United until the end of May. Is that coincidental? See how many things we win and maybe stay on the positivity that Ten Hag provides. Also, we'll be talking about an injury blow, a striker that could be out until April now and has missed a massive 65% of the season already. And some of those, well, we'll get into that. Also an injury boost, which might throw you a little bit on what I've just said there. And also some updates around Jude Bellingham, Sabitzer, and our spend. I've done a bit of research around the financial fair play hitting the summer. And this whole sell to buy thing is a nonsense. We can spend in the summer if we've got the right owners. And we'll explain that to you on the workings of how financial fair play actually works around expenditure, money that will come in, and something called player amortization, which I can't pronounce it, but I understand what it is. So lots to get into on the show this morning, and I hope you're all doing very well. Make sure you smash a like and subscribe. So look, injury blow, we're going to start off with that, but there is a little bit of breaking news around the sale of Manchester United. There was an article in the Mirror this morning saying that the Glazers are in turmoil. They are basically in conflict about selling the football club, and therefore the sale is probably going to not be done until the end of May if it happens now. Personally, I don't believe this story, and I'll tell you why. Because ultimately, the public statement in November wasn't slipped out there by one of the Glazers without anybody noticing. They all agreed to that public statement. We have shareholders. You can't put a statement out in November saying that you're looking for investment and you're looking for people to buy the football club and then go, oh, I didn't mean it. So I think what's happening here is that I think it's very clear that Avram Glazer and certainly Joel Glazer would like to keep hold of Manchester United, but there are other Glazers who want to sell, who aren't visible anyway. So I think that probably will happen. But I don't think this is about the Glazers wanting to stay at the football club and hold on to the football club as they do now. I think this is potentially about they might have had one. Look, let me cut to the chase. The conflict, if there is a conflict between the Glazer family, I think is that there's people in that Glazer family who want to sell it and walk away and cash in. And then there's people within that Glazer family, Avram and Joel, who wouldn't mind staying. And I think on the table, there is probably investors who are saying, we will keep you in power and give you 2 billion. And the Glazers, Joel and Avram might be going, oh, do we want to do this? And the rest of the family are going, no, we don't want to do this because it's a load of shit. We just get shit for it. And I think that is potentially what's happening here, and there's a bit of a conflict going on there. Ultimately, if Qatar pay up to what the Glazers want, they'll all agree to it and do it anyway. So I don't think the end of May is really set in stone. I still think that if the right bid comes in, the deal will happen quite quickly. But we can come back to that in a minute. A few people are talking about the injury issue. It is Anthony Martial, of course. So there is a story coming out this morning that Anthony Martial could be out until April. Erik Ten Hag has spoken about Anthony Martial in the last 24 hours and basically has said that, look, he's not ready to play tonight against West Ham. Highly unlikely to be involved against Liverpool. And in his own words, he basically said that Martial this season has come back a few times and then been out again injured too quickly. So I think that what Manchester United and Erik Ten Hag are going to do with Anthony Martial is probably give him an elongated recovery period, which is concerning in itself because he actually had that already. If you think about it, Martial came back just before the World Cup and then had 6 weeks when the World Cup was going on to recover and still went and got injured very, very quickly. The issue with Anthony Martial is he's injury prone and he cannot be trusted. But Ten Hag is desperate to get him involved. But when you look at it, I was looking at the stats, he's only been, I think he made one substitute appearance in 8 Europa League games. And that was a substitute appearance. In the Premier League, he's appeared in 35% of our Premier League games so far. But some of those were substitutions. And some of those games he was subbed off after an hour. So his minutes on pitch is dreadful. But, I mean, look, if you've got a striker who's only been involved in 35% of 24 Premier League games, that's shocking. And like I say, that he hasn't played 90 minutes in those 35%. Some of them he's come on as a sub for the last 20. Some of them he's started and come off after an hour. So his return is ridiculous. And if he's going to be back in April, the season ends at the end of May. and we're going to be playing games every 3.5 days. Martial, as sad as it is, and you know I'm a massive fan of Anthony Martial, but as sad as it is, Martial does not suit a football club that is playing competitively every 3.5 days. And look, this season will be more challenging than next season, no matter what we do. It is very condensed because of the World Cup. But if you are a Manchester United or a Manchester City or a Liverpool or an Arsenal and you're having a good year, you will hit this time of year in February and have to start playing 3 games a week every 3.5 days, because you'll be in the deeper areas of cup competitions and you'll be obviously playing your Premier League games. So there's a massive issue around Anthony Martial. I know what the solution is, and I know what the feeling is at the club. Martial's massively frustrated. Ten Hag is massively frustrated. The squad are massively frustrated. The fans are massively frustrated. Everybody, bar a few fans, I suppose, everybody wants Martial to be involved. And even if you want to sell Martial, you can't sell him now, so you want him involved. It's like Weghorst. I mean, some people, everybody likes Weghorst because he's available and willing to play games. Is he good enough to play for Man United? Well, of course he is, because we bloody need him at the moment. Is he good enough in the summer when there's other options? I think a lot of people would say, send him back to Burnley, let's get someone better. But right here, right now, Weghorst is essential and liked. And exactly that's the case. And I think if Martial was fit, he would be essential and liked. But he's not available. And this is the problem. I think that what we're doing without a recognised striker, in a sense, is remarkable. And the Martial thing is just very, very sad, because as we've seen this season, and as Ten Hag has said, there is no opportunity to say, well, when he's over this injury problem, everything will be fine. He's had 5 injuries this season, and like I say, he's been available for... Well, look, let's be honest. If he's out till April, he will have not been available for 70% of our Premier League games. I mean, that's just... Well, especially when we've played so many games. And actually, he's been available for more Premier League games than he has for cup competitions. Like I said, he's only made 1 sub appearance in 8 Europa League games so far. So that's what, he's probably been unavailable for 90% of our European games, nearly 70% of our Premier League games. It's ridiculous when you're on, like Mark says, 200 grand a week. It's ridiculous. And I think that there's a big decision for Manchester United to make, and I think it's going to be a hard decision. My fear for Martial is, one, that I'd love him to play for Manchester United because I really like Martial, but my big fear is that we may never see him playing anywhere else consistently again. I just think it's happened in the past and it will happen in the future. You get these players that unfortunately just get riddled by injury, and I think he's very much heading down that road, and it's very, very sad. But just for anybody who's just tuning in a little bit late, the rumour going around is that Martial will not be available until after the international break. We are only 2 weeks away from the international break, and the feeling is that he's not ready to come back. Ten Hag is fed up of bringing him back and him getting injured, and I think he's just of the opinion, what's the point in getting him back for Anfield or Betis, and then he breaks down again and he's out for 6 weeks. He's probably going to get injured no matter what I do, but let's give him a month to be back for the games in April and May, where we're going to have some really big games, and hope that he can stay fit then. And that looks like it's going to be the plan. So Martial could be out for another month, even though he is back training. I don't think Ten Hag's going to... I think what's going to happen is they're going to put him through intense training with the lads, training sessions with the lads, and see how he reacts to that, because he's made of glass this season, isn't he? And a lot of people in the chat are saying he needs to go. I think when you look at the summer, it's interesting if we bring in Fabrizio. Obviously spoke to us on the show on Monday about this, but I saw a tweet today saying that Man United are not in for Jude Bellingham, but they'd be really excited to bring him to Manchester United, but it's dependent on what happens with the ownership. And obviously with Martial's situation, I think that there is clearly something that needs to be done up front next season. But I think it's the type of players that we need to bring in. Bruno Fernandes is never injured. Erik Ten Hag was talking about Marcus Rashford. Now, we know that Luke Shaw and Fred probably aren't going to play tonight because they've got knocks and we need them back for Anfield. But he was asked about Marcus Rashford, and he said Marcus Rashford doesn't need a rest, he's fit. Now, I thought that, and I do agree with Calvin, no Qatar, no Bellingham. But I personally didn't think Rashford would play tonight. I didn't think he would start because I didn't think he looked fully fit on Sunday. But Ten Hag says he is fit, and I think he will start him tonight. And And, they're the sort of players that you need at Man United, the Bruno Fernandes, the Marcus Rashford, who they're playing in positions where we don't have any real cover, and yet they're relentlessly playing. And I think whoever Man United sign in the future, you've got to look at that. I mean, I always use the Eric Bailly effect. He'd had 3 separate injuries the season before we bought him from Villarreal. 3 separate injuries. That should be a red flag, and United need to look at that, because time on the pitch, doesn't matter how good you are. I've always said I'd rather have a 7 out of 10 player who plays 7 out of 10 every week but is available for 90% of the games than a 9 out of 10 player who's available for 70% of the games, because, well, there you go. 70% of games being available for isn't that much when you're missing 30%. I want that player on the pitch every week, because that's how you perform consistently. Showtime, Win, thank you. Welcome to Members Club. And Carmine's a legend of the cat. A legend of the cats? I don't know whether he's a legend of the cats. He's a legend of the chat. He's just gifted 10 memberships there. Thank you very much. But apparently Rashford is fit. This is from Eric Ten Hag. He is fit and he is available for the match tonight. So it's exactly what I mean. And it's like Paul Castle says, you've just described Wout Weghorst, haven't you? A consistent 6 or 7 out of 10 who's available every game over an Anthony Martial who is probably an 8 or 9 out of 10 at his best. But he's not even available for 40% of our games. I mean, it's a no-brainer, isn't it? If you're saying to me next season, do I want to keep Weghorst or Martial? Every part of my fibre says Martial's better than Weghorst. But looking at the previous year, I'm going to pick Weghorst because he's going to be available. There's no point in having... It's like having a Ferrari in your garage, isn't it? But you've got no wheels. Like, it looks brilliant, but you're not taking it anywhere. You're better off having a Vauxhall Astra on your drive that's pumped up tyres, looks clean, and it'll get you from A to B. I can't get to Manchester in a Ferrari if it's got no wheels on it, but I tell you what, but old Vauxhall with Weghorst Astra, he's going to get me there and further. So it's true. I think some fans and some pundits and they're obsessed with the shiny toy. The injury record today is absolutely essential. And I tell you what, Bruno Fernandes is superhuman, but there'll be other players like that. Mark, what's to say we won't have the same issues that Liverpool have this season due to the amount of games we're playing, says Chris. And there's no way the Glazers that can come out if they don't want to sell, they know their time's up, says Ivan Whelan. Look, next season we could burn out. We've played a lot of football this year and the summer is very small. This is what killed Liverpool. They had an amazingly ridiculous season last year and it killed them this year. But this is why the summer transfer is so important. I think there is a type of player that Manchester United need to bring to this club now, and I think it's very, very clear. It's not even a secret. We need aggressive, passionate, talented players who can stay fit for long periods of time. You look at someone like Lisandro Martinez. You look at someone like Casemiro. You look at someone like Bruno Fernandes. You look at those 3 players essentially in 3 different areas of the pitch: midfield. Attacking midfield, centre-back. They are aggressive, passionate players and they're always pretty much fit, and that makes such a difference. I think there's a player type at Manchester United now that you've got to go and get. And it's interesting that people talk about Jude Bellingham, because I think Jude Bellingham is exactly the right type of midfielder that you want. He's talented, he's energetic, he's aggressive, he stays fit a lot. That sort of midfielder is what we need, because with all due respect to Christian Eriksen, he's never been that sort of player. He's never been that sort of aggressive, energetic player. He's more of a link-up player, isn't he? He's very talented, but he's not that sort of player, and I think we need that. Personally, I think that Enzo Fernandez would have been perfect because he's got that Argentinian relationship with Martinez. I think he would have fitted the team very, very well. Obviously, we've got a few South American players already. He's got that flair, he's got that aggression, he's got that age gap where he can be developed further. I think Enzo Fernandez may not have made a mistake going to Chelsea, but I think he would have been perfect. But there are other players out there. I mean, I think Barella is an interesting profile of player in Italy. I think Caicedo is still an interesting profile of player. Obviously, we mentioned Bellingham there. But that's the type of midfielder Man United need to go for. The midfielder that's a little bit younger, with development in them, but has got that fire and aggression and talent. And we need some of that in the midfield, because Casemiro has been a revelation. We're never going to replace Casemiro because he's one of the best CDMs that's played the game. And I've played the game, and he's played the game in the last 10 years. But you need to bring people like that in, and with all due respect to Fred, he's nearly 30. With all due respect to Scott McTominay, he's not mobile enough. We need to bring players in like that. And I think it's the same in the attack as well. You think about the attack. I think, obviously, we shouldn't have to say they need to stay fit, because that should just be happening all the time. But I think we do need to bring a striker in that has that fire in them. You know, I think that Weghorst has shown that desire where it's been lacking a little bit. I think Cavani always had it, to be fair, but he couldn't bloody stay fit. I think we need a striker that reflects the team. You know, I would like to see a Casemiro or a Martinez or a Bruno type mentality in the number 9 shirts, because you think back to strikers in the past, you know, the people like Alan Shearer and people like that, they've got that fire in them as well. And I think we need that up front. You know, it can be a lonely job playing up front for any club, but for Manchester United, I think we need a striker with a bit of, you know, a bit of personality. You know, we need them to stay fit. We want them to be a goal scorer. We want them to be an all-rounder. But I think we need an aggressive striker. That's what we need. Now, there's your starter for 10. Tell me a striker that's like that. You know, who's a bit of a shithouse. Who's a bit, you know, he's got all the attributes we want, but he's got that personality that runs through the spine of our football side, from De Gea to Martinez and Varane to Casemiro to Bruno into the striker position. And that's the sort of striker I think we should be looking at. And the same in the midfield. And look, we talk about the Bellinghams and we talk about the Harry Kanes, but actually there might be players out there that are coming through that have those attributes. And this is where scouting comes into it. Bruno Fernandes is made of steel, says CGI, and Raz says Inaki Williams of Bilbao would be an interesting signing for Manchester United. A lot of people talking about Osman in the chat. These issues are a result of poor medical staff. We've had very bad injury issues dating back to the Moyes era, and it reflects a lack of investment, says Matthew Morella. Would it be interesting if we had, I think it's one of the most interesting things, if we did get money, how we would spend that money. Would be really interesting in relation to, I'm going to talk about financial fair play in a few minutes and how we can still spend money in the summer if we get new owners in and we don't need to worry about it. But you can spend money on the stadium, you can spend money on your fitness department, you know, your Carrington, you can spend that money and it doesn't impact on financial fair play. So I'd be very interested to see how that happens if we do change owners. Raz says, Inaki Williams of Bilbao has literally just had his first injury in 251 La Liga games. We need players of that background. They're out there, Raz. They're out there. And that is exactly the sort of player that we need to bring in. So I've spoken about the profile of midfielder we need, but I think there is a personality type that you need at Manchester United now. This Martinez, Casemiro personality type. And I'd like a striker like that. I'd like a striker like that. It's not good enough. Just because we had no personality last year and now we've got a personality, you've got to build on that. You've got to keep bringing in those types of personalities into the team. And at centre-back, look, if Harry Maguire or Victor Lindelof goes, we need a right-sided centre-back who, again, has that mentality, can stay fit and also can play a high line and also can be, you know, a good distributor of the ball and also can be left on their own to defend and also has got the confidence and personality to do that. There's no point in bringing somebody in who's a bit of a shrinking violet and is a bit, you know, needs to be told what to do, needs to be led. You need personality in that team, and that's why we've been able to do what we've done. I mean, Ten Hag deserves huge credit, but also there's a player type. Type. These players have been asked to do ridiculous things every 3.5 days, like I say, and they're doing it because they've got the personality and drive to do it. And I think that it's not just about... Look, I would include Frenkie de Jong in that. I know Frenkie de Jong's seen as a bit more of a technical player, but I think he has got the personality type as well. Whether you could get him out of Barcelona, I don't know, but I can see why Ten Hag would look at him. But I think sometimes you say, what 3 players should Manchester United sign? And sometimes it's not as simple as going, get me Osman. Ten Hag might be saying, there's a certain type of player I want. I want a striker who can hold the ball up, who is relatively mobile, who can score me 20 goals in a Premier League season. But also, I want him to be able to stay fit. I want him to be somebody who's got some development in him. And I want him to be a bit of a shithouse. I want him to be a character. I want him to be a leader. I don't want him to be a hothead. I don't want a Balotelli on my hands. But what I do want is some personality and fire. I want what Martinez has. I want what Casemiro has. And I want that in my striker. That's what proper coaching is. Because if you just go, well, I want Harry Kane because he scores goals in the Premier League. Does Harry Kane have all those things that I've just said? Has Harry Kane got that fire and determination in him? I don't know. I don't watch him every week. Has he got that? Has he got what Casemiro's got and Martinez has got and Bruno's got? Is he going to stay fit for 90% of the games for the next 4 years? Well, he's 30. I don't know. So, you know, there's lots of let me just get rid of Matthew Bell, or shall I call him Matthew Bellend? Goodbye, Bellend. Ivan Toney would be cool, says PDG. You do realise that Ivan Toney's going to get a ban. He's just pleaded guilty to the charges of the gambling charges. So I think Ivan Toney's going to stop playing football very, very soon and probably get a 6-month ban. But I don't think we're going to get Ivan Toney anyway. I don't think that's the sort of player Man United will go for, especially when he's been charged with gambling charges. I don't think United will want to do that. Good player, though. Thoughts on Vitor Roque? He's a young, talented Brazilian centre-forward and considered one of their brightest talents, says Mohammed. Well, look, you raise a good point, Mohammed, because Manchester United have apparently been, under Ten Hag, adamant that they want to bring more players in from South America, so it will be very interesting. But look, I do think it's an important thing to raise, because I think people start throwing players out there, but I also think fitness and personality type is really important, because we bought some good players in the summer, but we also bought amazing characters who've enhanced that team's winning mentality without a shadow of a doubt. Just if you're tuning in a little bit late, there has been a little bit of an update on the sale of Manchester United. You might have seen, I think it's Laurie Whitwell saying that Qatar bid, they were approached back in 2010. You might remember, you might not. There was an attempt to get the Glazers out back in 2010 by a group called the Red Knights, and apparently they approached Qatar back then to see if they were interested. We don't know what happened, but they didn't do it. There seems to be a little bit around Qatar at the moment where obviously the bid process is going on, but there seems to be a bit of PR going on about how Al Thani is a lifelong Man United fan, watched the game at the weekend, plays five-a-side in a Man United top. I don't need this. Maybe some people do. Look, I suppose I'm different and some of you might be different. I don't need to know how much Qatar or Sir Jim or anybody else loves Manchester United and how long they've supported Manchester United. I mean, at the end of the day, Sir Jim Radcliffe had a Chelsea season ticket and split his loyalties between two clubs and tried to buy Chelsea and now is trying to buy Manchester United. I don't care about that. That doesn't bother me at all. I'm not bothered about that. I think it's almost a bit old-fashioned to want and be bothered about an owner who, you know, basically was conceived in the Stretford end and, you know, was born with a Man United top on. I mean, I don't really care about that. It's a bonus, I suppose, but I don't care about that, because you could have somebody who's a super red who can afford to buy us but can't really afford to buy players or anything like that for the next 10 years. You could have somebody who's, you know, interested in football, really loves the name Manchester United and wants to make us the biggest club. I mean, look, you know what I'm talking about. Do you think Saudi Arabia, they all grew up with Lee Clark shirts on and loved Newcastle? Do you think Abu Dhabi grew up with Sean Gota shirts on and, you know, loving Oasis? I very much doubt it. Do I think they're going to do good jobs at Newcastle and Man City? Well, he's already done a good job at Man City if they have not been done for cheating. I think football's moved on. I think ultimately what I want is Manchester United to be able to compete at the very, very highest level with owners that when they buy us, they value us, they're excited by us, and they want to keep us for a very long time, and they also want us to make us the best club in the world. Like I said, it's not going to happen, but if Amazon had bought us or Apple had bought us, they're not Man United fans. But they would be excited and love having Manchester United and making us one of the biggest clubs in the world. I think we're just going through a bit of a PR stage where the Qatar bid may not be popular with everybody. So they're trying to go, well, look, he's been a Man United fan all his life. And that just bothers me a little bit because of all the sports washing thing. It's like, well, you know, they're just trying to appeal to United fans by saying that they've been a United fan all their life. Maybe they have. But to me, it doesn't really matter. If you want to buy Manchester United and you're excited by buying Manchester United and you want to keep us for a long time, and more importantly, you want us to make us the best club in the world, that'll do for me. It doesn't matter how long you've supported Manchester United, because ultimately we need super wealth. A young old Rooney would be perfect, says Shane. Okay. And what do you think of Lautaro Martinez? I feel he fits the profile you were describing, says James. Look, Lautaro Martinez is a player that many of you have spoken about for a very long time. And I'll admit, I'm not totally convinced by him. But the big thing is, you're probably right. He probably does fit a lot of the things I've spoken about there, about flair, personality, and everything. But the two big things for me would be, if he ticks a lot of those boxes, what's his fitness record like? Because I cannot be doing with another striker that's never fit. And I'm not just talking about Martial. I felt that Cavani was massively frustrating. I think Cavani, at 28 and fit, would be the dream signing for Ten Hag. He basically fits everything: the shithousery, the ability, the hold-up play, the link-up play, the penalty box, the pressing. If you could have Cavani at 28 in this 10... in fact, you know what? Tell me a striker that you would take for Manchester United of any era in the last 20 years, and you can take him at whatever age you like. I think Cavani fits what Ten Hag would like almost to a T. Now there are other players. I don't know. Alan Shearer played too long ago. I don't think Alan Shearer really suits the modern game. He'd have to adapt to it. But Cavani definitely does. And there are others out there. But that's the side. You're right. That's the type of player that you want. But most importantly, if Ten Hag wants Lautaro Martinez, then you try and get it, don't you? But I don't know. I don't know whether he would. Most of our problems are linked to the Glazers paying high salary and transfer price, keeping injury-prone footballers, refuse to sell them. They're the worst owners we've had, says Minnie. And Altani, I've cleared the game. Born under the Stretford end, gave birth to my child on 15th of May 1991. A 1991 Cup Winners' Cup final, says SK. Yeah, it's just silly, isn't it? But look, not everybody's on board with the bid, so I suppose it's all about PR, isn't it? But ultimately, there was this story, as I said, that's come out this morning from the Mirror saying that the Glazers are going to put the sale back until May, as there's a bit of internal conflict on what they want to do. If this club gets sold at the end of May, the summer's going to be a bloody nightmare, because you'll have to do it with Richard Arnold and John Murtagh. You'll have to avoid, how you buy players. Well, you don't get Bellingham for a start. You can't come into, we'll end up like Chelsea. Chelsea had a crappy transfer window because they had money to spend, but they couldn't spend it quick enough. I think Bowley got hold of Chelsea sort of the back end of June, by which time a lot of deals had already been done. So, look, if the Glazers aren't going to sell us till the end of May, it's going to massively impact the summer, because we're going to miss out on targets again. Harsh says, might be a silly question, but new to this. If teams are allowed to spend only what they make, how does rich owner exactly benefit the team, says Harsh. Thank you very much. Great question. Right, okay. I've looked into this, and we sort of touched on it a little bit last night, but financial fair play is the thing that undermines any rich owner from spending what they want to spend. There was this story yesterday about Ten Hag having to sell to buy in the summer, no matter who's in charge. I completely disagree with this. I think the whole sell to buy thing is Glazeronomics. It's an excuse so they don't have to spend money. The reality is, if you had rich owners, the sell to buy thing wouldn't matter. And it's not necessarily because they're rich, but it's also because they are clever and they know how to run football clubs. So we know the Glazers will probably, if they stay, the Glazers will run out this crappy excuse about financial fair play's coming and we can't spend stupid money. And the reason they would do that is because they know that there's money in that football club that they can take out for dividends and debt repayments, and they don't want to spend transfer fees. But a very, very quick exercise in, look, imagine I bought Man United. I can be Qatar, I can be Sir Jim, whoever you want. I represent new ownership, yeah? Hi, Mark. Is Martial going to be back soon, says Paul. Probably not for another month. You're late, Paul, aren't you? Anyway, so I've bought the football club, and a journalist says to me, you've got all this money, but you can't spend it because of financial fair play. Now, I would sit there and say, well, I can, because financial fair play is about how much this club has spent on wages and transfers against its revenue. Well, your wages against your revenue leaves you with about £80 million to spend. That's not enough. You need 3 players. I said, well, that's absolutely fine, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to increase the revenue and I'm going to reduce the wages, and I'm going to bring some transfer money in as well. That sounds interesting. Yeah, it is. So basically, that £80 million gap between wages and revenue that I've got to spend legitimately because of financial fair play, I'm going to stretch it at both ends. How are you going to do that? Well, revenue is going to go up because we're in the Champions League, and we've just, so that knocks it up a little bit straight away. Oh yeah, so that's what we're up to, about £120 million we can spend now, aren't we? Yeah, okay. I'm also going to reduce the wage bill by about £30 million, so that knocks it up to £150 million gap. Yeah, okay. And I'm also going to sell about £100 million worth of talent as well. So that takes it up beyond 200 million. So we've got £200 million to spend this summer. Thank you very much. High five. Well, that sounds great, but how have you done that? Well, Champions League revenue is going to come in. The wages that we're going to get rid of, I've wrote a little bit of a list here. So Harry Maguire's on about £10 million a year. Brandon Williams is on 3.5. McTominay's on 3.5. Henderson is on £5 million a year. Tellez is on £5 million a year, and Eric Bailly is on £4 million a year. So there's about £30 million of wages there. So that's 30 million gone off there. Okay. Yeah, but when you buy players, that will go back up again. Well, it will go back up again, but I'm only going to buy 3, and I guarantee you they're not going to be on £30 million a year. So we'll make some money back. But that's not my point. My point is I'm going to make money from transfers. Well, how are you going to do that? Okay. Eric Bailly is going to go for 10 million. I'm not pissing about. He can go for 10. Tellez can go for 10. Henderson can go for 25. McTominay can go for 25. Brandon Williams can go for 10. And Maguire can go for 40. I think that adds up to around 120 million quid. Nice one. Nice one. But what about player amortisation, where basically you won't get that full 40 million for Harry Maguire? You make a good point. We bought Harry Maguire for £80 million over a 6-year deal. We'd be selling him on year 4. So basically, the way that player amortisation works, or whatever you call it, is that you have to divide the contract by the value. So it works out at about £13.5 million a year that we've paid off on Maguire. So 4 years, about £52.5 million we've paid off. We sell him for 40. We end up with about 15 million in our pocket. So it can be done. It could be done under the Glazers, but they haven't got any money. So it's just accounting, and it's not false accounting. Manchester United can very easily create 200 million of expenditure this summer through qualifying for the Champions League, getting rid of a few players and selling them for okay prices. United will have about £200 million to spend this summer under new owners, and there may be other ways that they can do it. The problem is the Glazers. This whole sell to buy thing is nonsense. We've just dismissed it there. And there will be technicalities each way that can make it better or worse. But there will be about £200 million under financial fair play that Man United can still spend this summer. But you've got to have the 200 million. I, as an accountant, can sit there and work it out. But where's the 200 million? All financial fair play is about what you can spend. It doesn't mean you've got it. There was a very good example a few months ago about Spurs. I think it was Spurs. Spurs, technically, I think, could spend more than any other club in the top 6. I think it was Spurs, but basically, they could spend, I think it was 400 million in one summer, and they wouldn't be in trouble with financial fair play. But of course, Spurs haven't got 400 million to spend, so financial fair play is fine. You can screw yourself over and have all the money in the world, but you can't spend it. Or you can have a lot of money to spend and not have the money. What you want is the money to spend and the money. Well, if you've got new owners, we can have the money to spend and the money. With the Glazers, we can have the money to spend, but they won't have it to spend. And that's why they're talking about we've got to sell to buy, because ultimately it's just a front for we don't want to spend. Would you keep Van der Beek in the summer, says Toby? Well, we will keep Van der Beek in the summer because I don't think Van der Beek will be back playing football until probably... I don't know. What do you think in the chat? I don't think we'll see Donny van der Beek playing football again until... I mean, that type of injury, he only had it in January. He could be out for 9 months. Yeah, he could be out for 9 months. So, I mean, hopefully he'll be back in the summer. But he's not. I don't think Donny van der Beek's going to go anywhere. We won't be able to sell Donny van der Beek. So, yeah, we won't see him. I mean, look, I know Fabrizio was talking about Sabitzer wanting to stay. That's all fine and good. But Sabitzer's on quite a hefty wage. There's probably a deal to be done with Bayern Munich that's quite cheap. But Sabitzer's got to prove himself to be good enough. I like Sabitzer. I really, really do. But I don't see the value of Casemiro, Sabitzer, McTominay, Fred, Eriksen, and Bruno as a 6. I think there's a bit too much averageness there. So we need to see what Sabitzer's all about, because we need to bring some real quality into that team. Mark, quick question: would you buy Sabitzer? Personally, I love him, especially after the performance in the final. True killer. I like Sabitzer. I liked it when we got hold of him. I liked him when we were linked to him 2 years ago. I like Sabitzer. I think there's a player there, but I haven't seen enough of him yet. And Glazer's out says Sabitzer isn't average, but you haven't seen enough of him, mate. All right, I'm the owner, right? You're the manager. Do you want me to buy Sabitzer? Yeah. 200 grand a week? Yeah. 30 million to buy in? Yeah. 6 months' time, he's just another Donny van der Beek. That's on you. You're asking me to do something on speculation. Like, we've got 4 months to see what Sabitzer's all about. All I'm saying is, I like the idea of it. Let's see. We don't need to make a decision, basically. We don't need to make a decision. Like, at the moment, Ten Hag is picking Fred ahead of Sabitzer. If we're going to buy Sabitzer, he needs to get into a position where he's starting ahead of Fred, and he's the starting midfielder with Casemiro. He's not been here that long yet, but I would like to buy Sabitzer, but I haven't seen enough about whether he's worth buying yet, because he won't be cheap on wages, and ultimately, I don't want to buy a player that's behind Fred and Eriksen, in Ten Hag's opinion. And at the moment, we haven't seen enough of Sabitzer, but I like him. I think he's a good player. Our attack misses Martial. It's very disappointing, says Paul. Yes, I think we do, and I think it's a testament to Erik Ten Hag that he's getting so much out of the team when we haven't got Anthony Martial. But there's not a lot we can do. We're almost, well, we're not. We just got to go with what we've got. But as I said, it sounds like Marcus Rashford might start today. And if you think about it, we didn't replace Cavani, we didn't replace Ronaldo, and Martial's been injured all season. So we've actually lost 3 strikers from the summer, and we've replaced it with Wout Weghorst on loan from Burnley. It's remarkable, because goals win prizes, goals win trophies, goals win points. Cavani wasn't replaced, Ronaldo wasn't replaced, and Martial's been injured all season. So our 3 strikers really just haven't been here this year. And if it wasn't for Marcus Rashford, whose best position is off the left, let's be honest, and Weghorst coming on loan, that's basically all we've got. Tell me who scores our goals. Tell me who scores our goals. Connor, welcome to the Members Club. Thank you very much. Yeah, it's crazy how we've done so well this season when we actually haven't really had a goal scorer for any length of time. I know Ronaldo was okay for a couple of games and Martial's looked good for a couple of games, but to be where we are with what we have when goals win prizes, it's remarkable. But on the other hand, you sort of go, well, look, we've pretty much got top 4. We've already won a trophy. We can probably win another one. Imagine what we could do next season. Imagine what we could do next season with an out-and-out striker. It's scary. There's something wrong with our physio teams and we need to cash out on Martial, says Ronan. Look at Alexi with Marseille and Smalling. They're playing week in, week out now. Interesting point, Ronan. Do you think it's a lack of strikers why we don't score 4 or 5 goals against teams, says CJ? Yeah, look, I think at the end of the day, Ten Hag made a decision after Brentford and Brighton that he wanted to, stop the team from conceding goals, and we still aren't Ajax, and we may never be Ajax, but what I mean by that is that Ten Hag has a principle on how he wants to play football, and I don't think that we do that quite yet. I think we do it sometimes, but not all the time. This season has been built on determination, ability, but a very strong back 6, a back 4, a goalkeeper, and a CDM in Casemiro. That's how we built our season, because look at the game at the Carabao Cup final. By not letting Newcastle score, we can't lose the game. And I think we've done that a lot this season. But I think there is still... look, the scary thing is, on the journey of Ten Hag to what I think he wants us to be, I would say we're not... We've got to be halfway there, but I'd say we're only 60% of the way there. I still think he wants us to play way more in the opposition's half. I still think he wants us to have 70% possession. I still think he wants us to have way more shots on goal. And at the moment, we don't do that because I don't think we're equipped to do that. I still don't think he's got the De Jong in the midfield that he wants. I still don't think he's got the centre-back to cover Varane if he needs to rest him. I still don't think, and obviously he hasn't got the striker, and I still don't think he's got the cover for Bruno he wants yet either, but that might not happen this summer. But that's the thing, we're doing fantastically well with, you know, difficult challenges for Ten Hag. First season, can't change the whole squad in your first season, didn't get backed in the January transfer window, still has the Glazers in charge, you know, still has people spending £30 million more on a player, so there's nothing left to buy another player. And yet still we're performing absolutely fantastically. And Nickette says, well, let's not forget we didn't replace Greenwood as well. Exactly. So you look at over the last year, Greenwood wasn't replaced, Cavani wasn't replaced, Ronaldo wasn't replaced, and Martial's been injured and not replaced. So that's 4 forwards that we had a year ago, and we've not we've replaced them with Weghorst. No one wants to have that conversation, but it's true. And the reason you have to have the conversation is because it evidences just how good Erik Ten Hag is. Because, you know, I think, look, Ronaldo had to go, of course, but as I say, I think someone like Cavani would have been absolutely brilliant for Manchester United. And I'm not saying he would have stayed fit, but I think he would have been great. But we've still got stuff to play for, haven't we? We've still got stuff to play for. Decision in May, so no protests as end of season, says Tennyson Clothing. Well, have you just done a mic drop there, Tennyson? Imagine the Glazers at the end of May say we're not selling. There's no games. There's no games left. There's no opportunity for an outrage protest, is there? Because there's no game. You can't. How do you get all those people, protesting? You might hit on something there. I hope you haven't, but you might have done. I'll have to wait and see. We have still got games to play. We've got the FA Cup tonight, of course. I did just want to sort of do a little bit of a prediction on where I think Man United are going to finish this year. Very, very quickly, and I don't know what you think. I mean, it doesn't massively matter because I don't have the answers, but my personal feeling is that we will win the FA Cup. I think we will... Well, actually, I'm going to start again. I'm going to start with the Premier League. Premier League, I think... third in the Premier League. As much as I'd love us to finish higher, I think we will finish third in the Premier League because, as I've just said, we're doing this without a striker and we're doing this on a relentless schedule. I think we're not quite ready to win the league, so I'd say third in the league. I think the Europa League, we'll win it. I think we'll win the Europa League, and I think Ten Hag wants to win the Europa League. And I think the FA Cup really comes down to what the draw is in the quarterfinal, and if we can avoid City till Wembley, I think we'll win it. But if we get City at the Etihad, I think it makes it difficult. But I'm going to say third in the league, FA Cup runners-up maybe, and Europa League winners. And I mean, that still would be a remarkable season. I'm tempted to say we'll win the FA Cup, but I think I don't want to get giddy. I think I want to be realistic about the fact that this is still season 1. There's still so much to do. Dara says, Ivan Ferguson is an absolute must. Young and doesn't have the English... I tell you what, I didn't want to mention that name, Dara. And I know that's an Irish name and Ferguson's an Irish striker. I'd love him at Man United. I know he's at Brighton at the moment and he's still very young. But he's a player that looks like he's got a lot of development in him. And he's got a lot of the things I mentioned as a striker. Still ridiculously raw, I suppose, but yeah, I really, really do like him. Anyway, look, thanks everyone for watching this morning. Make sure you smash a like on the video and subscribe. We've got a match for you tonight. It's a watch along tonight. We'll be live at 7:15 because it's a 7:45 kickoff. Manchester United against West Ham. We go again. Thanks everyone for watching.